am Klaus. John, I am Klaus.
It's extras and epilogues. Open the theater. Lights, cameras, action. Movies and reviews, things you might not have known. What happens when the credits roll? Let's get on with the show.
Before he can earn his freedom, John Wick must face off against a new enemy with powerful alliances across the globe and forces that turn old friends into foes. Must face off against a new enemy with powerful across the globe and force enemies into foes. That sounds like to defeat the spider's curse, simply recite a Bible verse. This is Extras and Epilogues on Podzilla 1985, hot Chocobo nights all summer long, and that includes this hot recording. The theater is open, and tonight we are we're finishing up June Wick. It's the final episode of John Wick for June Wick, June, sure. And it's chapter 4. It's the final chapter. Although they just announced Chapter 5 and Ballerina just came out, but we're not going to talk about it tonight. My name is Shaden Young. I'm going to be your host. Let me introduce the cast. This might go poorly for some of them and might go well for others. First up is Double H.
Farewell, my son. Because he's his dad. Did you get it? Because he's his dad. Fuck off.
I will never prove it in a John Wick court of law. Also, Stephen Bright.
Hello.
And it says we have a fourth guest. I'm trying to figure it out. It's Zach Curtis. Consequences.
I should have just gone with this catchphrase, which is, yeah.
I think I told Lindsay, I think I figured out what's wrong with John Wick, with Keanu Reeves and John Wick. It's that it's everything he says slowly, even if it's 2 words.
Yeah,
everything he says has the
let's
same
not get into it yet.
inflection.
Let's get through the stats, please.
Okay. Released March 24th.
I'm gonna kill you.
Well, let's get to the stats because we want to jump right into this movie. This is a big movie. It was almost 3 hours long. It is the end of the series, like I said, except they have announced John Wick 5.
Well,
but Keanu Reeves hasn't been announced for it. That's the thing, and they're being very secretive.
Hasn't he?
But no, he hasn't.
He just had.
No, he hasn't signed on. I don't think. They announced John Wick 5, but he's not signed on.
Keanu Reeves returning to reprise his role as the iconic assassin.
Okay, but did AI tell you that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the Google AI search very much says that that's the case, yeah. So...
well, according to IGN, it says...
Oh my god! Hang on! Oh, shit!
Oh, no.
So, when you look up John Wick Chapter 5, the AI overview before the preview just shows you part of it and says, oh, he's returning. But then when you expand it, it says you can watch this video to see the first trailer for John Wick Chapter 5. Now, we know that's not a thing. Especially not because I don't think it has anything to do with this image.
Oh, shit. I gotta see this. Hold on. Where's it at?
Oh, my God. Well, sir, that's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with every vein in his body coming out as John appears to be his proctologist.
Now, the question, Zach, I asked to you specifically is, what is up The Rock's ass in this picture? What did John Wick shove up The Rock's ass?
Or what is he getting out?
Or what's he getting out of his ass? That's where the ultra platinum marker is.
That's the twist for John Wick 5. He helps people instead of kills them.
He's started a new life as a proctologist for the WWE. There's going to be a lot of cameos in this movie. Anyway,
I don't want to get too much credibility to this at this point. I was going to say, but Screen Rant says that he signed on.
IGN did too. IGN did too. Yeah. So it's difficult because we have the luxury of time on our side. Obviously, this film has been out for a couple of years, and we know that it's been out for 2 years, and we know for a fact that they're making a part 5, so we know that John Wick's probably not dead. But and even if this had come out and I had seen it at the time, I still would have assumed he wasn't dead with the way they kind of set it up. But, you know, theoretically, if he didn't want to return, they could have ended it with part 4. You know, for all intents and purposes, it did wrap everything up in a neat little package. But as we know, if a movie makes money, it can't die. So John Wick 5 and Ballerina and whatnot. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. Released March 24th, 2023. Directed by Chad Stileski. It's a trad director who did the entire series. Written by...
Well, traditionally, he is the director, yeah.
He's the trad director, yeah. Written by Derek Kolstad, who also did the series. Shay Hatton, who once again did Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon. 2 great films to put on your resume. And Michael Finch. Starring
Michael Finch, who has no other credited writing credits. That's why I didn't put anything else for him. You know me, I will put something for them if they've done anything. Michael Finch literally helped write this movie, and that's it.
I feel like maybe he only wrote that one part with Scott Adkins as the fat guy, which was really strange.
We'll get there.
Really strange. Starring Keanu Reeves.
Somebody watched a James Bond movie on mushrooms, and anyway.
It did feel very James Bond-like in a lot of ways. That's not
in the worst, dumbest possible way.
Yeah, James Bond. Well, what was his name? What's his name? One we made fun of.
Who?
Roger Moore.
Huh?
Roger Moore ones.
Oh, Roger Moore.
Yeah.
The Roger Moore one.
You know, the ones where you can ride
Woody Allen one.
The ones where you can ride a stealth Zeppelin up behind somebody and snatch
Silent
them up.
dirigible.
Lawrence Fishburne also in this. Donnie Yen, who I love Donnie Yen. I feel like, I'll say this now, for better or worse, Donnie Yen's character of Kane is the final form of whatever they were trying to do in part 2 with Common, and then in part 3 with Mark Dacascos. Donnie Yen is like the ultimate form of rival, and I thought he did a great job, although we'll get to it. Bill Skarsgård as the Marquis. And then there's a couple other people in the film that, that had small parts, but I want to mention just because I'm a huge fan. Clancy Brown is in this movie. He didn't do much, but he was very cool. It was cool seeing him. As I said earlier, Scott Adkins is in this as this fat nightclub owner / gambler / karate expert.
Ian McShane has been top billed in a lot of these. He is not among the top 5 in this, which is strange because he's in it a lot. Normally, he makes it in one of those top 4 that I put up here, but somehow Lawrence Fishburne got top billing over Ian McShane, which blows my mind because he's not in it nearly as much.
No, that's very, very strange. Very strange.
Yeah, I was very confused. Bill Skarsgård too. I don't know if you've mentioned him yet. I can't remember, but he's the best of what this could be. Of all the
he's the best fighter.
Other than the original. Yeah, other than the original movie, which is now, that may as well be in the fucking Louvre compared to the rest of these. Bill Skarsgård is the best version of the villain
famously
that they've done so far. So
famously, Shannon gave the first one 2 thumbs up, and he was the only one that did.
That's
even
still wrong,
Steven
but
didn't.
That's fine.
No,
you're still wrong. But that's fine.
It's right. It's right.
It's not.
And the fans are behind me on this one, except Pat Kennedy. Runtime of 160. No, they are, and I'll ask them. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Go right ahead.
I'm sorry.
The scores don't lie, man. This movie is better reviewed than that movie.
And that's just wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I get this film is bigger and bolder and it costs a lot more, but like John Wick 1 versus John Wick 2, 3, and 4 feel like completely different films. Like it's like Rambo. It's like Rambo. The first John Rambo film compared to Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Rambo Part 3 and then all the sequels. The first John Rambo, I mean, I'm not saying that John Wick is the same, but the first John Rambo was a very serious film. It was a drama about a soldier with, ex-soldier with PTSD. And then the rest of the films was just gun, kill everybody. John Wick was gun, kill everybody from the beginning, but it had such a more of an emotional tone and better characters and writing than the entire series. I don't Let's just keep talking about it.
You're about to get into the critical reception in a minute. Remind me before you do to tell you or to remind you what the receptions were for the previous films.
I really don't want him to, but I will. Budget versus box office. Well, I said I fucking would. $100 million versus $447 million at the box office. Critical reception. I'll say this first, then you can tell me what the other one's got. 94% critical rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's an 8.1 out of 10. 78 out of 100 on Metacritic, which is generally favorable. A cinema score of A on an A to F scale. And the Chicago Sun-Times, Richard Roper, who did, basically fill in for Gene Siskel after he passed away on Siskel and Ebert, gave it 3 out of 4 stars and said, quote, somewhere inside the utterly unnecessary bloated running time, there's a brilliant, stripped-down, 100-minute classic of a drive-in action film where the breathtaking action sequences don't grind on for so long and they become borderline tedious. I half agree with his review. I don't think there is a classic of a drive-in action film, even if you did strip it down. But I will say that the action sequences were too long, but there were some great set pieces. That's one thing this entire series had, was great set pieces.
I think there is a classic action film in here if it's not bogged down by the rest of the series. That's the difference. If this movie doesn't have to contend with 3 other movies full of bullshit, or 2 other movies technically full of shit, then this movie has something going for it as, again, a stripped down, like you said, classic, solid action film. By the way, as a quick reminder, the first John Wick got an 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, 68 on Metacritic, and a B cinema score. That's the audience deal. The second one, 89%, 75, and A minus. The third one, almost exactly the same, 89%, 73, and A minus. That means that this movie is the best reviewed by critics, by audiences, and by aggregate. Somehow, this is the best John Wick movie.
That's pretty wild. But
Rolling Stone called it the last great American movie franchise.
That's too much. Look, I not to spoil my review, and I know we're all going to have different opinions on this, and we'll get to that obviously in the review section. But I liked this movie, and even as someone that liked this movie, I would never say that this is the last great action franchise. They said American action franchise specifically, right?
Correct. Yes.
All right, so off the top of your head, and I'm being serious before we jump into it, can you think of another current action franchise that has new films in the series that you could say would outdo it? And I don't mean superhero films. I feel like that's its own genre, but just in terms of straight action movies, because I'm trying to think of one.
The only sequel I remember coming out recently is The Accountant 2.
The Accountant, the Nobody series. The Equalizer was a big one for a while there. Granted, they may not be as commercially successful, but I think great is a really nebulous term there. You can put a lot of different descriptors on great.
Yeah.
Top Gun.
But a lot of those films also only have 1 or 2 films, though. This is the 4th film with Ballerina as an offshoot.
Everything we named has at least a sequel. At that point, it's a franchise, I think.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I think there is a difference between a 2-movie franchise and a 5-movie franchise.
Well, then, see, the problem then is that if you're trying to say it's the last great franchise, well, if it's the only one that's had an opportunity to get there, then
that's what I mean. I don't agree with that.
Default.
Yeah, I think that's a stupid thing to say. It's the last great franchise. That sounds like some shit Donald Trump supporters would say about Trump. He's the last great president. Well,
it was Rolling Stone for the record.
Rolling over in their grave. Anyway, I don't know, but it's ridiculous that the scores ended up the way they did. Let's move past it. Oh, good. Now we can talk about the film. Actually, that was it. That was the stats.
Did you say the runtime at any point in time? Because I know you said his
I don't think I did.
Unnecessarily.
I don't think I did.
Yeah,
169 minutes.
2 hours and 49 minutes long.
So
that's real long.
I will say this right now. I'm not going to tell you what my review is, but it's definitely not 2 thumbs up, and I'll tell you why. One big reason, and there's more reasons, but one big reason for me was Hunter, when he finished watching it, I asked him, did it feel like it was that long? And he said, obviously you recognize the passage of time, but in the moment, it didn't feel like, oh God, this dragged out every second like a Neil Breen film. When I was watching it, I agreed with that. However, the ending part, and I get why they did it, but the entire ending sequence of John Wick trying to get to the church for the duel could have been cut out. That entire sequence could have been cut out.
Yeah.
And dramatically, it would have been better to just have the duel happen afterwards. Give him his scenes with Winston, give him his scenes with Kane, and, you know, kind of make amends and make peace or whatever, and then make it this big dramatic thing where he goes out and he has to do this duel. I get why they did it, because they wanted to show the desperation of the Marquis, because as time was growing near, he realized that he was going to be boned, so he's got all these people trying to assassinate him. Also, and I know we're skipping right to the end, and I don't mean to, but like I think the one thing that really drove me nuts about this film was all their talk of honor and et cetera, they knew that he was like being chased by every killer in Paris, and they know that because apparently there's a goddamn radio station dedicated to it. And like they're okay with that. Like the people in charge are just like, yeah, that's fine. If he doesn't make it, oh well, you know, rules and consequences. That part kind of bugged me, but we'll get there. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of the film. Steven, go ahead.
Oh, where he just knows where the elder is because reasons, and you know, in the movie previously, he had to be dying in the desert, and someone decides, let's bring him in.
I think
It's that
thing where you've been somewhere once, so you know how to get back there. Also, the Elder has exactly 3 lame-ass people on horses protecting him, and that's it.
I thought it was 4.
No, it was 3.
Maybe it was 3. I thought it was 3,
3.
yeah. It's 3 men on horses who apparently are not very good shots protecting him, and he makes no effort to defend himself.
My headcanon in that is that the Elder didn't change locations from the last time, so John Wick just was like, okay, it's over there. I remember it on the map.
He's an idiot.
It's it's the one spot in the giant fucking desert where a guy's sitting at a couple tables for no reason.
This is one of the problems I've had consistently with this series, and they did this at least twice, because the same kind of thing happens at the beginning of 2 when he goes to get his car back. It's like they have to show him resolve something from a previous movie to make you think that it's like a big deal, and here we go. But it speaks to a bigger problem with these movies in that they're always undercutting themselves. Every new movie has to be bigger, more bombastic, faster, harder, more bullets, whatever. So that means that everything that was cool in the one before no longer fucking matters. Markers were such a huge deal between 2 and 3. Now, fuck a marker. We're not using markers. That's not a thing. The Elder was the guy, right? Okay, in the original movie, we knew nothing about the hierarchy, just that there was a group of assassins and whatever. Then it became, well, there's a high table. And then these people are kind of in charge. Well, of course, there's some sort of hierarchy. It's Animal Farm. All pigs are equal, but some are more equal than others, right? There's always going to be somebody in charge.
Yeah.
Then it's not just the high table. Then it's, well, there's a guy above the high table, and he's the Elder, and he's the one. It always comes to one point, right? But apparently it's not just the fucking Elder, because then when the Elder dies, there's other people. The high table just picks a guy and goes, well, this guy of our guys is now in charge. It's so ridiculous. We're constantly adding to the mythology, but not in a way that matters or makes sense, because you never meet these people for longer than for John Wick to put a bullet in their heads.
I'm curious about the Elder more than anything, because
what does he do?
What does he do? What is the point? The Marquis apparently is just a member of the high table, but they entrusted him all the resources in the world to kill John Wick. Why? What's so special about him?
Nothing, apparently.
But well, no. He was entertaining. Bill Skarsgård knocked it out of the park. That's for sure. He was a great villain.
He was a lot of fun to watch in a role that means nothing.
The boy's
because we know nothing about this character.
He's a chameleon, though. I told Lindsay, I was like, "You know who that is?" And she's like, "Yeah, he looks familiar." I'm like, "That's Pennywise." Blew her mind. She didn't realize it.
Oh shit!
Steven just realized it.
Never watched.
I don't want to like undercut it, but I had no idea that anyone didn't know he was Pennywise. Like, I don't know how you can look at that guy and not see Pennywise immediately.
The dancing clown.
It's the eyes.
It's the eyes. And he can do that legit, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Because he used to do it to Bill Hader on the set of the sequel and scared the shit out of him.
It's scary. People with weird eyes are scary. Oh, that's gonna come back to haunt me. I also really like Donnie Yen in this movie. I really did.
I did too. Honestly, I did.
And there's little things that little details that I like that I don't know if anyone else picked up on. Like in the initial fight when he's fighting the other Japanese guys, he never kills any of them. He only beats them up.
He just knocks them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't kill a single one because he doesn't want to do it. And even when he tells the guy, like, take care of your daughter, they wrote him pretty well as a guy who is forced to do something he doesn't want to do, but he still does it, and you don't question why he's doing it, really. And he backs it up by not just being a bloodthirsty monster like everybody else. Like, Donnie Yen really nailed that role. That's why, they're talking about Kane being the next movie, and I'm actually okay with that, because I thought Kane was an interesting character.
It's a Yakuza movie. That's all it is. And honestly, the whole time I'm watching him in this movie, I'm like, this guy's in another franchise. Like, yes, okay, he's doing a lot of the same kind of fighting and fight type sequences in a way, but really he's not, because John is all about, CQC with pistols and stuff. This guy is doing... He's very Jackie Chan-esque. And I mean, Donnie Yen is that. He's a Hong Kong actor. Yeah. He did a lot of the same stuff that he did. So again, it watched like a Yakuza movie. There was a long stretch of time where John Wick wasn't in this movie, and that as we get to this fourth entry, I don't did what I was hoping they would do a long time ago and make me care about the other characters. The problem is the monkey's paw version of that is now I don't really care about what's happening with John Wick.
Okay, man. I said a while back, I told you that they made me care about John Wick. Keanu Reeves is oh god, we discussed this last night. Let's just get it out now. Keanu Reeves has slid backwards in the term of acting ability when it comes to the John Wick character, because if you go back and watch the first John Wick movie, he's soft-spoken but intimidating. By the time chapter 4 rolls around, he's still intimidating because he kills everybody. But when he talks, it's like it's his first day acting. Everything he says in this film, he only does little lines. He doesn't do full monologues. He doesn't do full conversations. And everything he says sounds like they asked him at the moment, just think of something up. Okay.
Go back and watch. I said it when we watched the very first one. That monologue when he's tied to the chair and he says that about, you have two options. You can give me screaming it. You can give me your son, or you can die screaming alongside.
That was great.
That was an incredible fucking monologue.
Right.
By this movie, there are even times where he says, yeah. And I'm like, why did you choose that inflection? Why does it go up and down? Man. It's so weird. And again, you made this comparison earlier and it's perfect. It's Rambo. Go back and watch the very first movie. Watch First Blood.
Yeah.
And then watch anything that comes after it. And Stallone is acting his ass off in that first movie. As much as I do not like giving Stallone credit for anything in 2025 because now he's an asshole. Anything after that first movie is just, bang, bang, shoot 'em up, say the dumbest thing possible.
To tie this into our wrestling fans, it's kind of like Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan can be better in the ring. But by the time he doesn't have to be. By the time Hulk Hogan was popular, all people wanted was the leg drop, the Hulk up, and that's kind of John Wick. John Wick doesn't have to do anything spectacular, so the character itself kind of stays stagnant even when the story changes. He himself is a relic of, I wouldn't even say the first movie, I'd say the second movie, because the first film feels completely different.
It's like its own thing.
But what changes around John Wick is the setting and the other characters, and I will say that I think Chapter 4 has the best setting. It has the best characters surrounding John Wick.
Yes.
It was more interesting than anything else. Yeah. Steven,
I feel like I'm going to be saying that a lot.
Well, let's give Steven and Zach here a shot, because you and I have a tendency to just ramble, let's be honest.
Well, it's not rambling. We dominate the conversation.
Okay, I ramble, let's be honest.
You don't ramble either.
Steven, go ahead. You said that you really liked this film. And Pat Kennedy was, shout out to Pat Kennedy, he was scared we would all despise this movie. And I think I can safely say right now, regardless of whether or not we liked it, that none of us despised it. Would that be fair?
No. Yeah.
That's fair. So. I didn't despise it.
Yeah. But Steven, what were your thoughts after watching it again since you watched it the first time?
I still think, even though it's long, the story's nonsensical, it's still probably the second strongest movie, after the first movie. The second and third one, after rewatching them, I still think the third one was better after a second viewing, but that second one's, I don't know why I thought that movie was, hindsight 2020, I guess. But for me, yeah, I guess it's the mindset I had going into the movies, because I'm there to watch the fun action scenes and watch Keanu Reeves, kill hundreds of people in a single movie. And you guys are there for the story, which I get. You're looking at, for something to, kind of get him to kill people throughout, the 2 hours and 49 minutes.
Medium. Yeah, I was gonna say it's 3 hours long. I need more, man.
Yeah,
I'm here for everything.
You don't get that with John Wick anymore. It's through the side characters, and the fourth one, again, nonsensical story, had the strongest side characters, in my opinion. I love Donnie Chen. I love The Stranger. All those, I just, I liked their motivations behind, wanting to kill John Wick. I thought they were interesting, and
I also liked
fun characters.
I don't know who played him, but I also liked Mr. Nobody. I thought he was an interesting character. I like that he had basically
and
it was
Bill
just
Skarsgård, this, really fun villain to watch. He was way better than the Adjudicator, and didn't care for Santino. So
Steven, this half-empty bottle of water is better than the Adjudicator. I hated that character with a passion.
The actor's name is Shamir Anderson.
I thought he did
Shamir,
good.
S-H-A-M-I-E-R.
I would love a movie about him.
I was
something.
I don't want to. Here's the thing I'm worried about.
You don't want to spin off for every character like Star Wars?
Yeah, a lot of these things are really thin, and maybe they don't need a whole movie. I would like to see more of that
or
character.
at least,
I don't think
more
he
of him
needs-
at least.
Yeah, I'll give you that much.
He's like because
he
the
hasn't
dog.
been in a lot of stuff.
The
I
dog
also
was
liked
cool.
him because of the dog. That is very much the thing I'm not going to shy away from.
When that dog got hit by the car, I went, "Don't you do it." He was okay.
That seems like a good time to. Seems like a good time to segue into it. How many times does John Wick have to die? How many times does he have to die on screen when he should? Okay. I was
Lindsay,
already upset.
Before you say this, I just want to say, I told Lindsay as we're watching the film, I said, John Wick gets hit by at least 3 to 4 cars per film. Film.
This one especially. He fell down how many flights of stairs? He fell 2 stories in a building and hit concrete on the way down. Then he fell 3 stories off a building. That was all in this movie. After a previous 3-story fall, wherein at the end of that movie and into the next one, we see that he's fine now because he punches boards.
Oh, the Baba Yaga.
I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
Baba Yaga, baby. Can't deny it.
Look, I can suspend a lot of disbelief to a certain degree. But at a certain point, you either have to bring magic or science into this, or just say nothing matters.
Okay,
because again, apparently John Wick is the only one who can do these things.
So I want to go to Zach here in a second, but before I do, let me ask you this, and I'm being serious because I think it would be ridiculous, but I'm curious what you think. If in John Wick 5, when John is not dead and they're like, how are you alive? And he reveals that he's actually superhuman, and it turns into a superhero thing. Well, now other superhumans are coming to fight him, and it's basically the Matrix at that point. Would that just make, even if it was commercially successful and they did it well, would that make this film franchise the most ridiculous fucking thing you've ever heard of? Or would you welcome that change to explain some of this horse shit?
To answer your first question, no, because Neil Breen films still exist. But to answer the latter, no, you're in a catch-22 now. You've gone 4 full movies, one of which is damn near 3 hours long, and you never thought to bring this up. It would be the exact same thing I was talking about earlier. Every time there's new shit that invalidates the thing from before. And again, I love the idea of building on a mythology, but I'll make Tanner happy here in a way. Probably not. He probably won't like this either. To make a Harry Potter comparison, in the 3rd Harry Potter book and movie, whichever one you prefer, whatever, they introduce the idea of a time turner, a device that literally allows someone to essentially travel through time. Now, the way that their time travel works is very much you're not going back to that time and inhabiting your body. It's Terminator rules. When you go back to a point, or I'm sorry, it's Back to the Future rules. When you go back to a point, everything that's happening is still happening there. So there's a version of you that exists there, etc. These things are never, ever again brought up in the main series. They are a huge part of the plot of that cursed child thing, the play, the musical, whatever.
The adaptation.
No. But
sorry.
No,
Withdrawn.
Don't fucking start with me.
I'm not.
But the rest of the series, they're never once mentioned again. And it's that sort of thing where they introduce new stuff along the way. There's new magic, there's new villains, whatever. But every once in a while you go, well, why the fuck don't they just go back and use that thing?
Right.
Because that theme seems important.
Yeah.
If they did something like that now, it would make me go, okay, then what the fuck have we been doing for 4 movies?
Oh.
Right?
Oh.
And all that other stuff before that didn't matter.
What if he's... God, I'm choking on my own horse shit. Hold on. What if he's a Highlander? And he doesn't know it?
Oh my god.
All right, look. It to me, before I get to Zach, because I swear I'm doing it. It reminds Star Wars is like that for me. Where, and this, again, Tanner's not going to be happy with this. Whenever you get into, and maybe even Lindsay, when you ever get to Rebels and this bullshit where now the Jedi can like time travel and go through the Force stream or whatever, that's so stupid. That's so, and look, I get the power of myth, I understand, but like the problem is Star Wars, when it was created, George Lucas never thought of any of that shit. And this is a bunch of people adding on to the mythology as it goes along because they need more, they need more, they need more. And John Wick is the same way. Yeah. I think John Wick is relatively tame compared to some of that bullshit I see in Star Wars, but we're only 4 movies in. Let's see what number 5 does.
Well, and it would be tame if this stuff was happening to other people, if there was some sort of explanation. But the thing is, everyone talks about John Wick like he's this horrible, imposing force and no one can stop him. Well, yeah, because apparently he can't die.
He can't be stopped.
Like, he can't be. It's anytime. Also, this was the first movie, and I don't know if the direction was different or what, but where I could watch. I told Sarah to do this because she watched the whole thing with me too. So she watched the last one. She's like, no, I'm invested now. I have to know what happens. Especially the stairway fight sequence. Watch anybody who's not fighting John, because we're finally officially at peak kung fu. Whoever is not actively fighting John, they're doing that thing in the background where they're not just standing there, but they're like, you can see they're trying to keep themselves busy, so it looks like they're not just standing there. Like they kind of like, I got to turn my camera on because I keep forgetting you can't see. They're doing that thing where they're like. They're like moving around, like they're getting ready to fight him. One guy at one point in time like leans up against a lamppost with his gun. I'm like, he can still fucking see you, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah.
See, the second movie was smart and had a lot of indoor fights, so they could just come around the corner and start the fight.
I'm sorry.
You didn't have to imagine what they were doing beforehand.
I keep saying I'm going to throw it to Zach, and I am, but one last time, we have to mention this one last time, because we've mentioned every other film. This film, I think, got it worse than all of them. Where are the police? Where is anybody that could do anything?
Didn't you hear the sirens at the beginning?
No!
They just don't show up. Yeah, no. So if you, at the very beginning of the movie, as it's, going to, the guy punching the board, you can hear sirens, or at least the captions are sirens, and you can...
Well, it's good to know the cops are doing something.
They're showing up eventually.
Not going after the 151 people killed in this movie.
Yeah. I told Lindsay after the stairway screen... I told Lindsay, I was like, I feel bad for the people that have to clean up these bodies constantly. They're just like, another 50 people were found at the subway last night.
What is happening?
A lot of coins.
There's a mass murderer on the loose.
And this film especially, we talked about the other movies where they're walking through the brightest subway station in history, and they're shooting at each other casually. And no one's really saying anything. But this film specifically, we're in that nightclub with the fat gambler Russian karate man.
Which, by the way, materialized out of nowhere. They leave that little sequence where they're fighting, or they're doing the poker thing, and then suddenly they're in a rain-filled sewer nightclub.
Yeah. And watch that scene. You literally see people watching them shoot each other and stab each other, and then they start dancing again. They just start dancing again.
Yeah.
Is this that common?
If you think the fight sequences are ridiculous, watch these people who will like kind of hold each other awkwardly, like they don't really know what to do. Oh, and then finally, when the club owner dies, that's when it's time to leave, and everyone politely leaves at a brisk pace. On top of that, if you think that's bad, they had a 20. Let me get close to my microphone. They had a 20-minute fucking shootout in the Arc de Triomphe, literally the biggest roundabout in the world. There were so many civilians. There were so many people. How the fuck did no one do anything about this?
Coins.
Zach,
Oh
God.
All the coins.
Zach, let's talk about the most important part of the film. All right.
Okay, what's that?
When Sharon gets killed.
Oh yeah, that part sucks.
I genuinely, as soon as they walked in there and he was stirring it and they were watching the timer, I thought, well, I know Winston's alive because I saw a clip where they were deciding the dueling rules. And I went, oh, and when he said, sir, if I may, I went, oh no, please don't kill Lance Reddick. And when they shot him, the look of terror on his face, it was an honor serving you. Of the love that Winston had for him, I told Hunter this, I really appreciated the fact that this character that you've kind of grown to like over the course of the films, he didn't just die and then they never mentioned him again like Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat. His death was important and it had impacts on the characters, and I like that. Follow that up, Zach.
Well, I can't. No, one fun thing is the rumor is apparently John Wick 5 might just be John Wick in hell. So it's just going to be Constantine.
Well, there you go, Hunter. I asked you what bullshit would here we go. And they better call it
is that
John
what
Wick in
Constantine
hell.
2 will be?
I love this film. Yes, if that was Constantine 2 was going to be.
Oh, I mean, it could be.
I like this film idea where John Wick is just running through hell shooting demons in the head and judo throwing them.
So my shit glitched out for a second there, and whatever I came back to, I already hate.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening right now, but I don't want it. I don't want any of it.
You don't like it?
No. I think it's probably a good time to get to the reviews at this point. We're 30.
Well, we didn't actually talk about what happens in the movie.
We never do. Okay. All right, fine. So John Wick, not dead at the end of part 3. He's been training. He's been probably studying, regressing in his verbal ability. He punching boards slowly until...
hang on. That goes to the trivia. He actually did. So, I don't know if you read it down there, but he only says 380 words in the whole movie, almost a third of which is single-word statements like, yeah. So, Chad Stahelski, who was the director, said that was Keanu Reeves doing. He said, quote, he stripped out roughly half the dialogue written for his character in the initial script. And I cannot understand why.
I have two thoughts on that. One is he, like us, when we said the Hogan thing, he knew that people don't really care to hear John Wick talk. They just want to see him kill. So he's like, this is unnecessary. And my other thought is he read, considering how bad his dialogue is, he read the rest of it and went, no.
I'm not going to say any of that shit.
No, I'm not doing that one. John Wick hasn't said the N-word yet. He's not going to say it now.
Well, you mean nuclear?
I'll be... Oh, God. So John is on his mission for revenge. He kills the Elder very easily. Almost no effort at all.
Yeah. The Elder literally goes, you came here for nothing, and John's like, yeah, I don't think so. And then just kills him.
Just shoots him in the head.
Sure.
And then leaves.
Okay.
Gets on his horse and rides away. Why do you have a horse in the desert?
Oh, they're
Didn't
actually
have a camel.
I would have had a
I was
camel.
gonna say those. I don't think they're as fast. I don't know though.
I don't know. I don't think they're as fast either, but for flair.
They probably just thought a horse looked cool.
It did. It did look cool, to be fair. I'm surprised John and the others... I'm surprised they weren't driving black sports cars out in the desert chasing each other around.
I mean, surprisingly, it's not that different. Camels can top out around 40 miles per hour. Horses top out just over 55. So, I mean, I think you could have made it look... right. This is not the point.
That's not the point.
But I just had to know.
No. John Wick gets back. He goes on his killing spree, and then they tell him, "Look, that's probably not the best idea because you can't win, but you can challenge him, which was never brought up in the previous films, which I guess makes sense. And to be fair, it makes sense because he didn't have a specific person to challenge. Like, there was no face of it at the time.
But here's my problem. I'm glad you brought this up. It's not necessarily that it wasn't brought up in the previous films. It's that John doesn't seem to know about it. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the original movie, the main villain, like the dad, says something to the effect of, he's the guy who helped us build this place. And then John goes, those are just a myth. Like, shouldn't he know about those things?
So going back to the first film now, I need to rewatch it because I think the reason that everyone was terrified of John Wick in the first movie is because none of them were a part of this organization. I think they were just gangsters and he ran through them like tissue paper. And once you get to part 2, now he's dealing with other assassins. And from there, it's John Wick is basically on the run for 3 films straight, basically. The first film is the only film where he's being taken as like a monster. And I think that's because he's dealing with normal people. Once you start getting to the high table and stuff like that, these people are all John Wicks for the most part. And that's why they're a little less scared of him. Well, except he shoots them all in the face repeatedly.
But that's not what I'm getting at. John doesn't seem to know about any of the shit the high table can do. But the guy in the first movie made it sound like John helped them build the whole organization.
No, I think he built his criminal organization. Yeah. That's how I took that.
Built their family.
I was going to say I never picked up on that, but I'll settle for that if that's the case. I don't know. To be fair, I still didn't like this whole sequence because again, this speaks exactly to the shit I was talking about earlier. Every new movie, there's a new thing. Well, now there's markers. Well, at least John knows what those are. Then there's this thing. Then there's here's where the coins are made. Now now there's high table. Or no, I'm sorry. There's the tickets. That's what it was in the third one. He can tear his ticket there. That's the thing we hadn't heard about. Well, now it's there's high table duels, and that's how you can get out of it.
Yeah, it turns out there was a way out of it the whole time.
Right.
Apparently.
Just killing one guy.
Also, he had to have his family go to him, and his family might have not, sponsored him, so to speak.
Well, he wasn't part of the family.
They might have not done it here either.
Yeah, he wasn't part of the family at the time.
If he was still part of the family, it wouldn't have been a problem if he had just done it in the third movie.
I mean, maybe, but maybe the family wouldn't have wanted to go against the high table, whereas now that the girl who was in charge, her dad got killed because of the high table.
It was all vengeance,
so she's fuck it.
I
get what came from killing the elder, too, by the way. They mentioned that barely.
She also didn't know that the duels were a real thing. The old priest had to tell her.
It's always the old priest, isn't it?
It's that thing where when you add more and more shit to it, though, like he didn't try, and you go, well, he could have tried. I mean, I get that it might not have worked, but we should have heard about it. Again,
it's the Star Wars thing. It's when you have to go back and try to explain away why this was never mentioned. And Marvel does the same thing. And there's parts where it's like, well, why didn't Captain Marvel, or is her name Captain Marvel in the movie? It is, right? Yeah. Why doesn't Captain Marvel just come and save everybody constantly? Well, she can't. Of course, she's off-world.
I was going to say, they have an easy out because it's superhero shit, so you can always be like, they're off-world, they're somewhere else, there's going to be another movie about them. The problem with this is that this was never written as this long, epic 4-5 movie thing. It was one movie, they had a cool idea for it, and then it made a shit ton of money.
Hunter, that's why they call it the writer's corner, because that's where they put themselves after
they realize there's no way out. They've written themselves into the corner. Yeah. This is why you compare it to something like not to a TV show and a movie, two different things. But again, a Breaking Bad, where from the beginning it is, we're doing this to this. We might have some changes along the way, but it starts like this and it ends like this, and we'll figure out what happens in the middle, on the way there. That's doable. But if you don't have an end point that you're definitively going to end on, then you're always going to run into, anything I do after this now has to be made to fit all the shit I did before.
It almost feels like fan fiction. And I know it's not. And I'm not trying to insult the writers, because writing isn't easy. I mean, it's not like anybody can pick it up and do it, but it feels like fan fiction in the sense that you can tell they didn't have any of this planned when they started. And as they're going along, they're like, well, that sounds cool. Well, that sounds cool. Yeah, let's put that in. And is it cool? Yeah, it makes for some cool set pieces. But at the same time, I agree with Hunter. It's eventually it becomes confusing and sometimes feels insulting. But Let's get back to the plot of the story. So John Wick, after doing all this, finds out that he can duel the Marquis, who has basically made it his mission to kill John Wick. And they set that up. They get the rules. Meanwhile, he's being chased by an assassin named Kane, a blind swordsman, which I told Lindsay, I was like, oh shit. First off, I said, you know who that is, right? And she was like, no. And I'm like, I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, and then I realized, oh, she's played another blind swordsman, basically.
Why do you think they picked him?
Yeah. And Donnie Yen is so good in this role. He's funny, he's charismatic, and he's got action chops. Obviously, he was a joy to watch. And Zach, I forget the guy's name, but wasn't the other Japanese guy, wasn't he in Mortal Kombat?
Yeah, he plays Scorpion, but he's also in 47 Ronin with Keanu, he's also in like Lost.
I think he's also in Shogun, that TV show Shogun.
Yeah, he's like the Shogun, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
He was also very good in this movie. But there was another part in this movie that I thought, again, I love the set pieces. I love the Japanese stuff. I loved the fact that they went to different places in the world was very, very cool, and it was very pretty. When they were in Japan, Hunter, we talked about this in the last film where all of the Asian people just grabbed swords and knives. And in this movie, I went, boy, I bet you guys would have such an easier time if you used automatic machine guns and not bows. As cool as it looks.
But it looks cool.
Cool.
That was frustrating for me too. There was no explanation given for that.
I'm surprised the elder didn't like duck into a corner, grab his magic lamp, start rubbing it, and had the genie get him.
Jafar comes out.
And
pulls out a scimitar. It's like curved on the.
Camels are spitting at him the whole time.
Shanny, you could cut right into a camel's hump and drink the milk straight out of there with that thing.
Oh, okay, and then it all leads to the big showdown: John Wick versus the Marquis. But it turns out to be John Wick versus Kane. Meanwhile, there's another guy, Mr. Nobody, chasing John Wick, waiting for the biggest price. I did like his character. I liked his motivation. It made sense. He didn't just attack John Wick knowing he would die. He wanted that money. And he only changed his mind when John Wick saved his dog, and I liked that. I also liked that. I thought that was very cool.
I did too. I'll be slightly critical of him in that I wish we knew what it was he wanted. Like is there a specific thing he wants the money for? I don't need it to go deep.
Sure.
But he insisted on it being the specific number. He had this thing in his journal about 50 million. And like, I want to know, it feels like that was a goal. Why 50 million?
Yeah.
Well, behind that, you see like either a picture or a sketch of a mansion. So it's literally just...
He wanted more money to be rich.
Noble
in its own right, I guess.
That's disappointing, man. 50 million seems like a really specific number for something. Like, you can get a lot of really cool houses for less than 50 million. I
think he's also trying to get out, so to speak.
Yeah, because
they're all sitting at the casino table.
That's such a cool idea. Say that shit.
I mean, they do it when they're at the casino table because he mentions how all three of them are trying to get out.
But the fat guy said it. But
we don't get any of that from him.
Yeah, and that guy really had no. He might have known some of the motivations, but there's no way he knew everything. So, but
he was by the higher table to kill the Russian guy for betraying the elder.
Hunter, I'll make fun of things. I'll make fun of things in a second, but you're going to hate me for this. I actually liked that sequence. And I
hate it.
I know.
It was the most cartoony fucking thing I've ever seen in these movies.
By far.
It's ridiculous.
I thought the funniest thing was, so you mentioned it earlier, that all those people are just standing around watching. And they don't even run after John Wick sits there and just beats the shit out of this dude.
No.
No one runs. They don't run till he sits up. Then everyone's like, oh shit, zombie. And then they all take off running. Like, what is happening?
What was really...
I have to ask, while we are stalled here, who the fuck is Klaus?
He is Klaus. He is Klaus.
What the fuck was that?
Was that supposed to be a Guardians joke?
I fucking defy you to explain 1 second of that shit.
It was another guy that just improvised his lines, like Keanu Reeves.
No,
ridiculous.
They probably said, "Look, we want some of that Guardians share, so you be the Groot of this."
I literally said, "Is he Groot? Like, what is happening?"
I thought the weirdest thing.
Why does he hit John? Like, what is going on?
Well, he is Klaus. He told him twice.
In English.
Oh my god.
Maybe that's the only thing he can say in English.
I thought it was weird that they put. Have you ever seen Scott
But
Adkins?
I also don't know.
Have you ever seen Scott
Outside
Adkins?
of his fat suit,
Yeah, he's a great martial arts actor. He's been doing this a long time. I'm gonna put a picture of him here in the chat. He's been doing this a long time. When I saw him in the fat suit, I went, "Is that Scott Adkins? No way!" Because it's such an obvious fat suit, and I was like, "Why did they do that?" And then I realized when he starts doing the kung fu, it's like, "Oh shit! Look, it's fat kung fu. That's fun." Let's get to the reviews.
Whole sequence. Is
Let's
so
get
bad.
to the. He has 5 twos.
It's so good.
He has 5 twos.
How did let me get closer again. How the fuck did Kane know what his cards were? How did he know?
He felt them.
He felt him.
Yeah, what did he
Because the
feel?
ink is apparently raised on
there?
there.
That's right.
No one said he never. It would have taken 2 seconds to show him run his thumb over it. Nothing. He had no idea what he was
Wait,
He patted them.
Did you not see the part
Sure.
where John whispered it to him? No, because that didn't happen.
Fuck out of here.
Let's get to the reviews. For the last John Wick Chapter 4, Fat Suit of Bellum. On this show, just to remind you really quick of what the past ones have gotten. John Wick the first, before it was Chapter 1, it was just with John Wick, got 2 thumbs up from me, 1 up from Steven, and I believe 1 from Hunter, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And then John Wick 2 and 3 pretty much got the same scores across the board. It was 1 up from me and Steven and 1 up, 1 down from Hunter. So, what will John Wick 4? Where will we land? Where will we end the series? And now Zach's on board, so we've got his review as well to consider. This is...
Let Zach review the first 3 movies.
All right, Zach, real quick. First 3 films.
The first one is probably my favorite.
It's the best one.
I think they should have ended there, honestly. But
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
agree.
mad that they continue.
Absolutely.
Because I'll watch garbage. We all know this. I probably have. I'm the one that's like, oh, look at this movie. And everyone says it's bad, but I'll still go watch it.
He's excited about the Steamboat Screamboat Willie, where it's a tiny little mouse killing people.
Yeah, because it'll be stupid, but I'll love it.
That's why we love you.
But the number 2 was, I'd say 1 up, 1 down. Maybe I'm neutral on 1, on 2, and then 3. That I could have done without. If they just would have gone to 4, I would have been okay with it. So I'd say probably 1 down.
Ooh.
From 3. So that's just me.
It's gone down for him.
Yeah, gone down on that. All right, well, let's do part 4. As you know, on the show, we do a 5-point system. 2 thumbs up, you love it. 1 up, you like it. 1 up, 1 down, you're neutral and different. 1 down, you don't like it. 2 down, you hate it. Very famously, few films have made it to the double down list, most recently being Mario Brothers from 1993. We still haven't found one that's got double down since then. And the most recent double up, I believe, is still Blazing Saddles.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the only one double up across the board.
Which, well deserved.
In a while.
Steven, this is the last episode of June Wick, so you're going to get the first nod.
All right. Again, I knew what I was getting into in this movie. I'm not there to watch it for the story. It's all the action and watching Keanu Reeves kill people. I just love the action sequences. Definitely some drag on too long, especially towards the end with the staircase. It's a cool idea. I just didn't need him to go up it 3 times.
When he fell back down the stairs all the way to the bottom, it was like
I
playing
didn't even fall down it twice.
It's like a platformer. It's like watching Hunter play that one game.
Should be dead.
Remember that when you were playing that game and you would jump, you had to jump from platform to platform and you would fall and have to start from the beginning. You did it like 5 times and we were all like, "Oh my god, that was this."
What game was this?
You were like you were like a ninja or something, and you had to like.
Oh, oh shit, yeah. I can't think of the name of it. You're talking about the thing on the Switch that I was playing at the store.
Yes. And
the hell is that game called? It's the same group
Messenger?
that makes The Messenger. Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
same company that makes no, it's not Shovel Knight. Who does The Messenger?
It looks like Shovel Knight.
I can't remember.
But when it's that sequence of when you kept falling down, and we would all go, "Oh, man, that was John Wick." When he fell down the stairs the whole way, I went, "Oh, he's got to climb all those stairs again." Oh.
Yeah. It's Devolver. That's Sabotage and Devolver did that one.
Yeah.
Oh, Devolver's so good. But yeah, I love the side characters, honestly, more than John Wick in this movie. I love Kane. I like the Nobody, the Marquis. Also, what's his name? Clancy Brown. He was in it as like the Marquis' second or advisor.
He was
The
like
Harbinger.
The Harbinger. Yeah, he was like the
That's what it
big
was.
man. Yeah.
Again, love all those characters. Definitely don't need like an individual movie for each one of them, but definitely would like to see Kane again, Mr. Nobody, and all that. But overall, second favorite film of the series. I still think the first one beats it out. Just hands down, it's just the better film. Because Hunter, what Hunter mentioned, the first one didn't have two other bullshit movies to drag it down story wise. So this I don't know if I want to give it 2 or just 1 thumbs up. You know what? It's my favorite one. I know the first one's better, but I'll rewatch the fourth one. So 2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up for Steven. The only one he gave 2 thumbs up to. Remember that.
Oh.
All right.
Yep.
Let's go to Zach Kirkus. Zach Kirkus, what do you think? John Wick Chapter 4.
Honestly, so I saw this in theaters. And I mean, I'd go to these movies for the stupid action and just because I like watching, stupid things. I just like watching movies. However, I do remember sitting in the theater and kept looking at my phone going, how does this movie still keep going? Like, I would check and just be like, how is there still more to this movie? How are we not to the climax yet? Now, I'm kind of with Steven on the fact of, like, I enjoy all of the side characters. Kind of like how we were talking about that guy who played Scorpion. I love that whole interaction, like, even before John gets there, just seeing his Continental and the way that, his guys are and that kind of stuff, and then Danny Yen. But rating-wise, I would have to give this just 1 thumb up, I guess, just because I do love those side characters, and I think they finally, which kind of sucks that it took this long to the fourth one for them to actually kind of figure out maybe what they wanted to do. Because like you said, Hunter, there's characters that we actually care about at this point, but like there's just so much that you're just trying to like force feed in a sense, all the way up to this point that it's just kind of like there's so much. Why are you almost 3 hours long? Why are you almost as long as Star Wars? That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, I definitely go with 1 thumbs up on this one. And just because, it was super long. Also, I sent something in the chat for why Klaus, apparently, some reasons why.
I know.
Oh, no.
I'm not sure why he says that, but that's all I could find. I tried to figure out why he said that. But one fun fact, though, he's actually played by a really famous bouncer in Europe. Apparently, he was like the bouncer for a really famous club that had like a multi-floor level kind of thing. So that's kind of cool.
I think it's the Hodor thing. Anyway,
Sure.
I'll start off my review by saying I love how none of these motherfuckers can get Donnie Yen's name right. Steven called him Donnie Chin,
I'm so glad you
and
said
Zach called him Danny Yen.
Did I say Danny?
You
That's all
did.
me.
Yeah.
It's Donnie
Donnie
Yen.
Yen.
Put them
I thought I
together.
was saying Kane. My bad.
Donnie Yen. Yeah, I can see that. But it's Donnie Yen. He's a fantastic actor. He's been in a lot of good shit. He's Ip Man. He's in the Ip Man films too, which very famous for.
He's also in Shanghai Nights, the second one. He's the bad guy.
He's a
one of them.
fantastic actor. I need to watch that. I haven't watched that movie in a long time. It's 1 thumb up for me. Look, I would have given this 2 thumbs up. I really would have, because Hunter, forgive me. I at this point I've embraced the stupidity. Like the whole fat club guy who also knows karate, like all of the dumb things in this film, at this point, I can watch it and just kind of smile and laugh and go, no, this is wild. I'm not going to tell you that it's good. I won't tell you that. And that's why it got one thumb up from me, because it's not necessarily good, but I found it entertaining. The entire time they're doing the card game, and, you know, the Scott Adkins fat gangster character, I guess, is laughing and stuff. I'm like, this is
so
ridiculous.
focused on this part.
It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. That and the DJ, maybe the two most ridiculous things in the entire franchise. I did not understand the DJ. So there's just a radio station you can tune into to find out where all the great assassinations are held, and the cops aren't listening to this 24/7 going, okay, they're at, you know, the tower, let's go. No,
It's Underworld. It's the Assassin Society.
It's probably older than the cops.
In broad daylight.
Everything.
They created the cop canon.
Look, I'll forgive all that because I do find it entertaining. The reason I knocked this down to one thumb up is because it is too long. It is just too long. It's not so long that you hate it. Again, I don't think any of us despised it, but the whole ending sequence with the stairs and the gunfight as he's waiting for the duel was so unnecessary. You could have found a better way to show the desperation of the Marquis. Maybe as the night progresses, he's trying to get an assassin to go kill him, and Clancy Brown steps in and says, no, that's not the way we do things. You will honor the way we do stuff. That is old way. But they don't do that.
Well, they said no quarter whenever they set up the duel. No quarter means, you know, they are not safe from either of them.
Yeah.
At least that's how I understood it.
But I don't think they meant that as in send the entire goddamn assassination squad against him. Because why would John Wick agree to that? Why would John Wick said it first. He said no quarter. So why would John
Wick
gotta kill more people?
No quarter means no mercy. So basically, he meant in the actual duel, there won't
Someone
be
had
any
to
like,
die.
okay, you got me, we're good.
Right, someone had to die.
Okay, that makes sense.
But
no quarter's a military term.
But even if that was a thing, I just don't understand why that whole sequence happened. It was so unnecessary, and to me, that really did knock it down a level. It's at 1.5 because I genuinely enjoyed this film. I like the action more than the other films, even though it still goes on too long. I can only watch John Wick shoot someone in the face for the 30th time in a gunfight before I go, all right, let's move this along, man. That is the biggest problem with John Wick, is you have the DNA of something great, as Richard Roper said, but then you bog it down with so much unnecessary violence, for one, and maybe that's what sells it to people like Justin Smart and some of the other fans of the series. But I think you can knock down these gunfights by 10-20 minutes per movie and have the same film, but without the unnecessary bloat. This film is worse than all of them in that there are so many sequences where it's just fighting and gunfights, and even though they're visually pleasing, they're unnecessary. And I think that's my biggest problem with the series. But with that said, I did enjoy this film. I agree with Steven and Zach both. The side characters in this film are light years ahead of all the side characters in the other films. The other films, the only side characters that you had that were worth a damn were Winston and Sharon. They're both in this one. They both have big impacts, and then the characters surrounding them are both entertaining to watch and make sense, which is not always the case with John Wick. But I can't lie to myself and say it's a 2 thumbs up film when I have so many issues with the length and the unnecessary bloat. So for those reasons, I'm giving it 1 thumbs up, but I do recommend the movie, and I recommend the series as a whole. I was very entertained. Excuse me, hiccups. I was very entertained by the series. I had never watched John Wick before this, except for the first one. I did see it in theater, and I had a good time. So I'm glad we did this. I enjoyed the John Wick series. I enjoyed Ballerina, by the way. I watched that in theater. I don't know if I mentioned. I really liked that. I would also give that 1 thumb up. And I am curious to see where they go with John Wick 5. So that is my piece. Hunter.
Ballerina, by the way, currently the worst reviewed of the series at 76% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Also a box office bomb.
Yeah, it ain't gonna do well.
Which is a shame. It was good.
I'm gonna settle on 1 up, 1 down. And yes, this is the same score that I gave the last 2. This is that thing that I've said before, that if I had like a half measure, I would angle this toward up. But I still, I can't bring myself to call this a good movie. We've all said it at this point. It's too long. It's way too fucking long. No matter how good the action sequences are, they all go on for too long. And there are lots of them that, or not lots of them, there are several of them that flat out don't need to exist. That the movie would be better paced if they weren't there. Again, the stairway sequence is way, way, way too long. I also for whatever it's worth, I can no longer look past the fact that John Wick is superhuman. Again, at a certain point, it just doesn't make sense. And it takes my enjoyment away from the movie. I love an action film like a Die Hard, where the guy's just really good at what he does, but he does eventually show that he's vulnerable. John is only ever vulnerable, apparently, when he takes off his magical suit jacket, which, by the way, none of that is how Kevlar works. That was so fucking frustrating to watch.
I got so tired by the end of the film of so many gunfights evolving into people holding their jackets up while they shoot.
Holding their
I think that also lends, and I don't think they did it on purpose, but I think that lends more credibility to what we're saying about the first John Wick, them just being gangsters, not involved with any of this, because none of them had those suits. But by the time the second movie rolled around, everyone had those suits.
This one for sure, every single character it seems like has them. And once again, we have an assassin movie or assassin society where apparently the only people they kill are other assassins.
Yeah.
We have not one time in these sequence of movies seen a guy on a contract kill someone who's not an assassin. So what am I watching? What the fuck is going on? I say what you will about like, oh, I can turn my brain off, or oh, it's not really meant to make that much sense. They're putting in too much work for that to be what they want you to do. And that's what irritates me. I can watch a lot of movies that are made where it's clearly just turn your brain off and just go, whatever. But there's so much mythology and they take it so seriously that I can't then watch this movie and go, yeah, but none of this makes sense. And that's where I'm constantly going back. I don't want to just out and out say I didn't enjoy these movies. I'm not saying I wouldn't watch them again. I'm not going to, unless I have some definitive reason to do so. I would watch the first one again with my wife, obviously, without her watching the key sequence of the dog dying. Yeah. She can't take that. But just to show her the juxtaposition. Just to show the difference between, because she saw 3 and 4 with me. She hasn't seen 2. And I'm not going to subject her to that shit again. But just to show like where we went from where it started to now. I would not retroactively go back and give that first movie 2 thumbs up. I don't think it's that good. I think it's good, but I don't think it's that good. And that's what I said at that time. I think that the second and third movies are, for me, in the middle with an edge toward down. I see what people like about them. I don't think they're very good, but do what you will. There's some good, there's some bad. This one has a little more good than it has bad, which is why I'm still going middle of the road, but with a slight edge upward, because it has some things going for it that the others didn't. Again, the side characters are better. I actually really enjoyed watching both Donnie Yen do what he did as Kane, and I have lost his name again, but the guy that played Nobody. I really enjoyed that character too. I thought both of them were a lot of fun. Did think there was a startling lack of female characters in this movie, which is kind of a shame.
And the series
was really... Well, I mean, for the past couple of movies, at the very least, whether they were villains or heroes, there was always somebody who was a main... Yeah. Right, and then Ruby Rose, and right, Ruby Rose?
Yes.
And the second one, the mute character.
Yes,
Ruby Rose. Whatever. Yeah. Yeah, even though they weren't the best examples, it seemed like they were always trying to have like a female presence. This time around, we got Akira, who is cool for like a couple minutes.
For a few minutes?
Yeah, I guess. It was just a shame to not get to see more of that sort of thing. But I did like those side characters. I like that they finally found a good balance of other characters I cared about. And yet, at the same time, as much as I enjoyed watching them do what they were doing, where Kane at least has a story that makes sense, although it is, I don't know if you noticed, just the John Wick story again to a certain degree, right? They're holding something over his head. He's got to do stuff for them. He doesn't want to do it, etc. They basically just put him against himself.
That's what I'm saying. That was the ultimate form of the rival. Now you have the mirror match.
Right, but that was, I don't know. It was fine. I was fine with it. As much as I liked Nobody, which, by the way, I think the Tracker is a much better name for him, right? That's what he does. He's
a tracker.
Good at that as anybody.
Yeah.
His story went nowhere in the end. He got nothing. Nothing came of it. He literally sat there and watched the final fight and he made a friend who died. So, or didn't. Who knows?
Oh, easy.
But he should know because he's in his... Anyway, what I thought was a really good character who, again, kind of went nowhere. I mean, he had an arc, right? He was tracking John, only he didn't really want to kill John. He just wanted the money, and then John saved his dog, so he chose not to kill him. But then what I mean, that's it. He just sits and watches the final fight.
Well, that we know
there's
of
just
right
a-
now until John Wick 5. For all we know, that's the problem. That's the problem.
But
They didn't
that's
answer
what I'm saying. I don't think
here.
it's fair to. Yeah,
Right.
I can't grade this movie on what might happen
Sure.
in another movie.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, it was more enjoyable to watch than the last two, but only by a little bit, and mostly by characters that have nothing to John Wick. I'll put it this way. This is the best way I can sum it up. I have no desire to watch John Wick, the character, do anything else. Like, I would prefer that he be dead at this point.
Same.
Because I spent a lot of this movie going, every time they cut back to John, going, really? Like, show me more of the guy with the sweet backpack that flips around and he fights with his dog. Or, like, show me more of the guy throwing doorbells onto the wall, which, by the way, again, cool trick, never does it again.
No. Did he go back and get him? Does he have a
happened to have
surplus?
those with him? Right. Does he go get... Because those things aren't cheap. I wanted to watch more of those characters do those things, because at this point, I know what John can do. John's going to do the exact same thing that John does all the time. He's going to grab a guy, shoot him in the neck 3 times, while everyone else waits to come in and fight him. And it's just...
Man,
that story's been dead and done for so long.
I was so disappointed when they announced John Wick 5, and now that I know Keanu Reeves is in it, because, like, at some point, every great character has to have an ending. They have to. You can't just leave it in the open forever, because that robs the character of greatness. And what better way for John Wick to die than he got himself free. He's a free person. He helped his friend out. Like, there's no reason for John Wick to ever do anything again. There's just not. He deserves death, because, again, we'll get to it here in a second with the ending, but the whole talking about the tombstone of Sharon, where he said he just put, he was a friend because that was the most important thing. And John says, loving husband. That's what I want on my tombstone. And then you see that at the end. I thought, good. Let him die and be in the hereafter with his wife, and he's a loving husband. The story's done. Give me Kane. Give me these other people.
Now that I think about it, because I'm going to use this to kind of cap off I know it's going to lead right into us talking about what happens after this, but looking at the overall structure of this movie, and this didn't occur to me until just now, very little gets accomplished. If John dies at the end of the third movie, Winston goes on, if he actually dies, like he should have, because again, the motherfucker was shot in the chest and fell off a 3-story building and hit everything on the way down. If he dies at the end of that movie, Winston's in charge of the Continental again. The High Table is satisfied. We go right back to the status quo, but John's dead, right?
Right.
At the end of this movie, what happens? Winston's in charge of the Continental. Sharon is dead, so that's a negative. So far, we're in the red. A member of the High Table is dead. He'll be replaced, probably by another asshole, so probably still in the red. The Elder is dead. It's never brought up again. Doesn't seem to matter. And John is still dead.
So they didn't do a good enough job with this, I don't think. But
what was accomplished?
There's a part where Clancy Brown's character is talking to the Marquis, and he tells him that John Wick, he didn't say martyr, but he basically said he'll be a martyr, or he'll be something once this is over, insinuating that if John Wick kills a member of the High Table, it basically sends the message to everyone else now that the High Table aren't invincible, that this will ruin their reputation. And the guy says, that's not going to happen because I'm going to kill John Wick. And they don't. But they
knew that because John already killed a member of the High Table in the second movie.
But not in a...
He killed the sister.
But not in a duel.
He assassinated her. That's literally the whole reason that anything after that happens, because the brother goes, well, I can't have it look like I had you assassinate her, so I'm putting a contract on your head.
Maybe the difference is, and again, I'm just spitballing here, we're doing that thing where we think more than they did, but maybe the difference is that that was an assassination from the shadows. This was a one-on-one fight with a guy that,
But they knew what happened. Your justification was that now they know they're not invincible. They knew John Wick killed him. That's why the contract was out there.
No, not
the knowledge was the same.
No, not the High Table, but everybody else. The people that work at the Continentals, all the people who are quote unquote under the table now know that the table isn't invincible because John Wick.
They didn't kill
the contract
John Wick.
was on John's head. They knew why they were going after John.
But again, that's an assassination. That's not a one-on-one. Like, it's symbolic. And again, I said they didn't do a good enough job.
And as a matter of fact, I'm going to change my review to 1 down now that I think about it. I'm literally changing it right now because again, at the end of this movie, nothing is accomplished that wasn't already done at the end of the first. In fact, it's worse than it was before.
Now, see, I disagree because I think that there are more stakes from the last film to this one. And the parts where when John Wick did anything in the previous films, nothing really happened. He killed people and there were consequences, they always said. But in this film, there actually were consequences. He kills the Elder. So what happens? They destroy the Continental. They kill Sharon as a message. Winston says it later, or somebody says it later. Donnie Yen says it. He says, he didn't kill him. You killed him. The idea that John Wick has paraded himself around like he is this selfish, invincible person, and this is the first film where I think the consequences that they keep saying of those actions finally came to him, and I think that's why he died at the end, quote unquote, is because he realized that his life was pain for other people. Like, I feel there was more growth in this film than there were in the other movies.
No. I don't think. I think you are saying things that the movie doesn't show. You're justifying that that's the way that it was.
We do this all the time.
But the movie doesn't do that.
No,
and that's a huge problem.
No, and I wish they had done that better. But maybe they should have better writers than the guy that wrote Army of the Dead and Rebel Moon.
Or maybe they should have stopped when they ran out of story, as at the end of the first movie.
Maybe they should have ended it at the first movie because that was a one and done story that didn't need an entire universe set up around it. But it doesn't. But it doesn't change how I feel about John Wick 4. I still liked it. Dalton just asked me how was John Wick 4, and I'm going to tell him, wait till tomorrow, and you can listen.
Before we end the show, what was our favorite action scenes?
Well, we got to get the epilogues too, but since you're asking about
this movie,
I mean any of them, I guess,
or across the series.
Yeah, let's across the series.
So for me, I'll answer. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well,
you're good.
For me, it would either be the fight with Mark Dacascos and his group at the end of part 3, or the probably it wasn't as good as the other sequences, and I'm going to go back to the well on this fat guy in his club again. But there was just something about seeing John Wick, Kane, and Nobody working together that I just really liked. It was that scene from Star Wars, Hunter, of episode, was it 8 or 9? Was it 8?
8, yeah, with 8. Rey and Kylo working together.
Where they team up, yeah. It's that thing where it's like, here are these characters I like, and now they're working together. I know they won't forever, but I thought it was very well done. So that would probably, once you get into the rain-soaked nightclub, made no sense, but it was still a cool visual. Nope. And that's John Wick as a whole. A lot of it doesn't make any sense, but man, it looks cool. That's me.
Hunter, you.
I really like the top-down sequence from this movie.
That was
I thought
really
at least
cool.
That was visually shot cool.
Very
especially
cool.
For at this point, they know who their audience is for these movies. It's people who play video games.
Because they're literally using the Dragon's Breath
like one
from Call of Duty.
Yeah, you may as well. Those are real things, too.
But that's the first time I had heard of it, is what I'm saying. Is I had never heard of this at all until Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So when I saw this in the movie, and Lindsay was like, "What the? They're just shooting fire now." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, Dragon's Breath. I use that in Call of Duty."
They're flammable.
I lied to her. I don't.
Although, thinking back to the first movie, the nightclub sequence in the first movie is a lot, but at least it's the first time you really get to see him sort of unleash. So it's probably that. Because that's back when John Wick wasn't just completely over the top. Like, that's when we get to see him like really do what he does best, and also it feels somewhat realistic. So probably that one.
I like that. Zach.
I think mine would be the first one, but after he knows that Vigo is sending those people, and then you see what happens to the people that actually come after John Wick, like, because you hear all the build up, like essentially, like the whole build up, and then all of a sudden, you got like 5 or 6 dudes that are after this guy, and he immediately just disposes them. And it's just like, okay, I see why you have this big lure around you. It makes sense. Show me more.
And they did.
I like that.
4 movies full of it. Yeah.
I will say though, I think it was the first one you talked about, the original script though. And I think you should, Hunter, at some point you should give Sisu a try. I think you would like Sisu more than this series.
You should also
because there's a story there. I heard.
You should also watch The Raid if you've never watched that.
I've seen The Raid. Yeah,
that's a very good film. Very good. And Dread, which is just American Raid. It's the same movie.
Dread.
I love Dread as well. Let's get to the end. We should do that for one of these months. Ending. The Harbinger grants John and Kane, as well as his daughter, their freedom from the high table after, I guess we didn't say what happened. So they get in the duel. John and Kane's really good for a blind man. That's pretty good shooting. Which, by the way, I forgot to mention this. There's a scene earlier in the film where they first start fighting, and John is laying on glass, and Kane is like, "John, you still there?" And he's just kind of looking around, and John is like trying to be super quiet because he knows he can't make a noise. He sees the gun, and as he slightly turns, you just hear the glass crack just a little bit, like a crackle, and then Kane immediately just starts attacking the area. I thought that was very cool. It reminded me of the blind huntsman in Repo. Don't make a sound. Yeah, or he will destroy you. All right.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? He reinstates Winston as the hotel manager of the New York Continental. John reflects upon his life and marriage before collapsing from his injuries. Finally, sometime later, back in New York, Winston and the Bowery King bid farewell to John at a gravestone with his name, located next to one of his wife, Helen. In a post-credit scene, Kane returns to Paris to reunite with his daughter, but is approached by a vengeful, knife-wielding Akira, which will probably be the setup for the Kane film. Like I said, when it comes to death and love and stuff like that, I know it's a cheat code for me. It's a weak spot I have. I absolutely teared up at the end just because the thought of losing someone and then finally being reunited with them after all of this happened. The only downside to it is I know it's not true. I know John Wick's not dead. I know, and I wish he was.
3 point-blank shots and all the other shit he went through.
It's
also,
not,
I mean, he could have been with his wife a long time ago, man.
Well, I know, and that goes back to the thing of him saying he wants to live to remember. And remember, I said this when we reviewed that movie. I said that's stupid. Why?
That doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
So what does John Wick do now?
Sorry, real quick. I do appreciate this is a positive thing. I do appreciate that Skarsgård's character did at least mention that at one point in time. When he was comparing John and Kane, he said there are 3 types of people in the world: someone who has something to live for, one who has something to die for, and one who has something to kill for. John has none of those things. Kane has all of them.
Yeah, 'cause he was fighting for his daughter.
And that was at least a good explanation of the moment that was happening there. Like I'll give him that much at least. There was some justification of somebody going, John literally has nothing left to fight for. I'm glad somebody in the movie finally went, why the fuck is this guy still alive? What does he want?
I also like, though, whenever Tracker and Kane were walking and talking, and Kane was like, I told you to take that deal. And Tracker's like, oh yeah, what did you get? Because it seems like everybody offers the high table something or wants something from the high table, whereas Kane's like, no, I gave something. He gave his eyes up to keep, to keep his daughter out of it.
Yeah, as they said, it was fucked up. They took your eyes. They didn't take them.
Yeah.
I gave them.
Yeah, and I think that shows something too, be like the comparison between him and John, whereas John, he killed a lot of people to get out for happiness, but then immediately came back the moment the happiness was taken from him. As much as he said that he didn't want to, what else was he going to do? Whereas Kane, he's trying to do that, but they keep calling him back. And I like how when you first see him, he's all messy and he's just relaxed.
You should pick someone else.
When you see him, he's all suave and I guess I gotta work because they're gonna kill her.
I also, in my head, and I don't know if you guys picked up on this too, or is it just me, but I felt like him and John worked together in the end to trick the Marquis. Because there's...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he knew what was going on.
He told him, what was it? Someone that clings to death can never die. And then Kane says someone that clings to life could never live or something like that. Yeah. And then John doesn't fire the bullet. And I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I'm like, they're going to find a way to get that piece of shit in there to take the final bullet, and John's going to shoot him. And that's exactly what happened.
I think he didn't know. I guess we could say that Kane knew John wasn't going to shoot him. But at the same time, I don't think he did know, because when he shoots John and didn't get hit again, you can see kind of this shock or surprise on his face, because at the same time, he did kill that other guy. and John did make a promise to kill him. And so maybe in his mind, there's always that chance.
Well, okay, he killed that other guy, but like that guy really didn't leave him much of a choice, man. You can only walk away from a situation so many times before you have to put that dude down. Anyway,
he could have just not taken the job, got his daughter out of there.
But it ties back to that thing they were talking about where he said something like, "Do you think that the only what would he say? The only somethings we have are contracts or for the high table or something or loyalty or something like that," insinuating that him and John were friends and he wanted to help him. And I feel that they brought that back around at the end with the dog when he was going to shoot him, but he realized not everything is about money and that. Like I said, I felt like there was, man, some movies hit you over the head with symbolism. And some movies are so vague that you are begging for just a little bit more. Turn the dial just a little bit more. And I feel this movie needed to turn the dial up on that and down on the bloated action. I still like the ending. It's a beautiful shot. Graves, goodbye my son, all that good stuff. I like the teaser at the end, the stinger. So where do we go from here? Well, we know that John Wick 5 is being made, and now we actually can give an epilogue because we can say what happens. Ballerina was a prequel. It happened in between 3 and 4, so it didn't count. What happens to the characters? What happens in this? If it were me, personally, if John Wick is in John Wick 5, let it be flashbacks. Let it just be flashbacks of maybe him and Kane, of him talking to Kane. Maybe you see a little bit why they did. Let John Wick die. And I know that's hard to hear if you're an executive because of the money this keeps bringing in. But you're getting I was going to say you're getting diminishing returns every time, but this thing's a fucking blockbuster. On a creative level, you're getting diminishing returns because you can only do so much with the same character. I said the same thing about Bruce Willis in Die Hard. How many times can the same guy be put in a situation and we're going to care about it? But it turns out creative meets dick all in Hollywood and entertainment. It's only about making money. I just read a thing today. I meant to send it to the group chat. It was the guys who made that new Pixar film. I don't remember what it's called. But Elio. But apparently it bombed. And the guy said, it's a hard time. We're trying to figure out how to make new movies when he said, what's the alternative? Toy Story 27? And I thought, thank you. I'm glad someone said it, but unfortunately it doesn't fucking matter because people will still go out and watch this horse nonsense. That's why How to Tame Your Dragon was number 1 at the box office by a fucking metric ton because we just want the same things regurgitated.
Same movie.
It's the same movie. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, where do you see these characters going after this, Hunter?
Nowhere at all.
Nobody.
Because nothing's gonna fucking change, man. Like, look, in a preferred universe, yes, John Wick is dead. Okay, that makes no sense when there is a John Wick Chapter 5. So if I gotta figure out what John Wick Chapter 5 is, my hope is that it's a fucking prequel. And I know that's gonna be hard to do because Keanu's getting older. The series has been around for a while. I think they're over 10 years at this point. The first one came out in
2014 or 15
or something. Yeah. That would be hard to do. I get that. Don't get me wrong. But I think at a certain point, you have to go back to an earlier time and not keep dragging this guy out of the grave. If he is still alive, I cannot fathom a situation where that makes sense. Not only where it makes sense, because again, he has died so many times in this series, but what the fuck does he do? What else is there to do? If you do another movie with him in it, then it's the same situation. Well, the high table's not dismantled, but he's out, he's free or whatever, and he's just there to get other people out. I don't know. It has to be a prequel. And if it has to be a prequel, then I think you have to go back before the original movie. I think you have to go all the way back to when all this stuff was first getting started. But I'm going to be real with you. I don't give a shit about that either. So I'm not going to try to pitch that movie to you. I think at this point, the John Wick name has nothing to do with the character. And yeah, the next movie needs to split. I would like it to split its time between Kane and between Nobody, between the Tracker. I would be perfectly fine with seeing a split movie that does stuff with both of those characters. Tie up some loose ends with maybe some of the others too. Kane obviously wants out. He's got to deal with Akira. Maybe we finally find out what the fuck it is that Nobody actually wants outside of just exactly $50 million for some reason. Yeah, I mean, there's probably something to be done there. And as much as I'd like to see those characters again, I don't care to see another one of these movies. I have nothing story-wise for these guys. I mean, look, I'm not a Hollywood writer, and they are, and somehow they cranked out 3 movies that didn't matter. So I don't know. My preference would be that in this universe, these characters, I guess, just go back to doing what they're doing, and hopefully somebody out there assassinates someone on a contract worth some money. That'd be nice.
I would say, well, you might like Ballerina then, because that's what she actually does. Is she assassinates people?
It's about fucking time.
I think, to go back to my answer real quick, because I mean, I care as much about this film franchise as I do with most franchises that aren't like Ghostbusters or. Nah, it's just Ghostbusters, basically. Like, there's not another franchise that I would be like, oh, I want another one. But if they are going to make another one, I would follow up on what you said. Make it about Kane. Maybe he's still an assassin. Or make it about Nobody. And Nobody is like an assassin. And he's assassinating terrible people. And then for some reason...
you can't call it Nobody, because they did that already.
Ah, damn.
Well, now he changed his name to No One in Particular. Mr. No One in Particular.
His name is Tracker, is what they
call
him.
Tracker.
That's what it should have been. It should be the Tracker, but he calls himself Nobody.
And I get why. And I get why he did
just
that.
Introduces himself as Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, because like
he's just there to track.
It's that thing of, well, who are you? Nobody important. And maybe you could tie that into the story. Maybe like his sister has a $50 million bounty on her head because she did something so horrible to the high table and he's trying to save her life or something like that. And you come across, old Kane again. He's on the run from Akira, but in the end, they all have to team up to fight something bigger. Maybe this is the actual destruction of the high table, like as a complete thing. And at the end, John Wick is in the clouds watching them, and his wife is with him, and she says, is it over, John? And he just looks at her and goes, yeah. And then, then the movie ends. Steven, what about you? What are you pitching?
If Hunter already did a prequel and I had to continue in John not dying in chapter 4, maybe something to do with the original script, maybe something, less over the top, more, personalized story. Let's see how he deals with grieving with his wife actually now that he has time to do that.
I think Shannon wrote this earlier this week. It was called Shannon Cries, the RPG. I think we saw this movie already.
John Wick 5, the one where he cries a lot. Right. I don't know.
I'll pitch something completely off the wall then, since you're...
I do like the idea, though, that they just made Constantine 2 into John Wick 5 and just changed the characters.
Hear me out.
It's just demons. Close quarters combat with demons.
If I was to say... Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on, let me do one.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. He's breaking down.
Hold on.
So,
He's breaking down here.
I think if they were to do one, John should be dead. I think you, kind of like you guys said, he needs to be, just let him die at this point. Now, maybe we follow Kane, maybe we follow Kane, or maybe we follow, that Tracker or something like that. I don't know, but, kind of like, I back you up. Maybe it's flashbacks between him and the guy who ran the other cop, because he seemed to also know Kane. And they all kind of seem like they knew each other from something. So maybe you give some flashbacks of that, and he's trying to help his daughter and take care of his daughter and, his actual daughter, because he does feel bad for what it is. You could do something like that. But I wanted to also say that apparently his movie is supposed to start production this summer. I don't know how old this article is that I'm reading, but Kane's movie should be getting made here soon. So he is getting a movie. I don't know if it's prequel to him or what we're talking about, but I think John should stay dead. And yeah.
If you're going to make one more John Wick film, I'll say this, then I'll tell you the ridiculous answer. Go for broke. Make the last John Wick film, or maybe you have two more, but either way, make the last ones about this united front of Winston, Kane, Akira, Mr. Nobody, all of these other characters, and introduce new characters, finally sick of dealing with the high table. Maybe the way John got treated in this, the way they tried to cheat him before he won, inspires a rebellion. And I'm not trying to be funny, I just say rebellion. But this movie is about just a full-on attack and destruction of whatever the high table is, because they're tired of, like Marquis said, there's new rules coming, there's new leadership. This could be the finale of the entire kind of universe there, where you have them taking down the entire institution, and maybe at the end they build a new, better institution, something not so scummy. I don't know. The ridiculous answer I'll say, by the way, is we take what Steven said, we go back to the original script, you wait 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years to make the next John Wick movie. John Wick is now 80 years old because Keanu Reeves is 80 years old. He's still alive. You find out that he was alive this entire time. They're like, oh God, I didn't know John Wick was still here. We thought you died in that duel. No, he's still alive. He's living a quiet life in his house with his robotic dog. And then one day, space gangsters break in. They steal his spaceship, and they give his dog malware, which shuts him down completely.
Oh, no.
Now I have to change the name to give his dog malware. Hang on.
Now 80-year-old John Wick is murdering aliens left and right in his quest for vengeance for his robot cyber dog, who he, by the way, liked to call C2 Rough Bow. And that's his name.
C2 Rough Bow! Oh my God. I don't want to belabor the point here because I know we're trying to get out of this, but what does taking down the high table look like? Because we know why John wanted to do it. John wanted out. He thought that was the only way out. They were also, and actually, let me rephrase that. That's not true. He didn't want to kill the high table because he wanted out. He wanted to kill the high table so they'd stop coming after him or kill whoever was in charge of that or whatever. And then it became, I also want out.
Yeah,
I want out. I want you to leave me alone. I just want to be left the fuck alone. Other people also seem to want out of this organization. Obviously, Kane is one of them. Tracker seems to, maybe that's his thing. He never says it explicitly. So maybe they just want out, but destroying the high table, what does that really accomplish? Because again, you're in kind of a Star Wars situation. You're just creating a power vacuum.
Yeah, they'll rebuild.
If that organization doesn't exist,
right?
Either A, someone rebuilds it, worse potentially, or you are now no longer under a singular, entity. There's all these little split factions. That's probably worse. Now, we would know if we ever saw what the fuck it is these people do when they're not killing each other. Then we might have some idea.
Into a corner.
Exactly. We never know what the fuck. I would kill for just one person to execute a proper contract in these movies so I could watch it and go, that's what they do. That's how they make all this money. That's how they have all this shit. That's the day to day.
I'm gonna send you a clip from Ballerina because it's that.
So I was gonna say, so maybe they already kind of made this, but that's what the next movie should be to some degree. Without John at all, and maybe without any of these side characters. I know they get their own things or whatever, but just I'm talking, this is the Luke Skywalker of the Continental, right? Brand new, fresh off the fucking farm guy, girl, whatever, who is brought into this institution. Because with John, it was kind of cool to see that he was already out. We were learning about this stuff retroactively until it got to be way too much. Now the rules are all there. Start with somebody who's never been involved in this shit, and we can watch it through their eyes, and maybe finally it makes sense.
It's Ballerina. It's Ballerina.
Okay.
Yeah, it really
there
is.
You go.
But tempered expectations, because they do explain a lot, but they also leave a lot on the table and introduce a new thing.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
They also have a TV show coming out.
I think it's already out. Isn't it?
No, another one. It's called John Wick Under the High Table.
All right. Well, that's
what is this?
Wrap it up for us tonight.
New Lionsgate confirmed it's developing the series John Wick Under the High Table.
And you would ask yourself, why do they keep doing this? And I'll tell you why. Because it keeps making money. Again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we say. These things will continue to make money in spite of themselves. And I'm not even saying I hated the series. I liked it. But at the same time, goddamn, sometimes things need to just end.
It's just Fast and Furious. They're going to go until people stop going.
That's not where you want to be.
That's not.
Or Star
John
Wars.
Wick 5, John in space. Let's just do it. Let's just
with his cyber dog, C2 Ruffio or whatever.
Jonathan,
And the
C2 roughed me out. Why do you keep saying C2? I don't understand where that's coming from.
There's a part in the new John Wick film where he does a backflip over a shark, shoots 18 people in the face, rides the shark into the glass window to eat members of the high society, and then he backflips out, and then he does it again tomorrow. I don't know.
Oh, Shannon,
I like
that's
that he
just
backflips over the shark. That's pretty on the nose, but I like it.
That's gonna end June Wick, and it was a lot of fun. It was like I had a lot of fun discussion on this.
Yeah.
But we're not. Of course, I want to thank Steven. This was his suggestion / fault for Hunter.
June Wick.
June Wick. He said it as a joke, and we ran with it. We ran with it.
I just didn't love it.
So I just want to point out, I know I've been telling you guys that you need to watch, but I wanted to look it up just to see. He has 2 lines in the entire movie, the main character. 2 lines in that movie.
In what movie? What are you talking about?
Sisu.
Sisu.
Which is what John Wick was supposed to be when it was Scorn.
Yeah. And it's a Nazi killing time,
I like Nazi killing.
I also saw a trailer for the second Nobody film, and that's another one where I went, this doesn't need a fucking sequel. This doesn't need a fucking sequel. Like, God, I'm more excited for the Naked Gun reboot. I think that looks legitimately funny. There are some parts that really actually made me laugh. Love you, Dad. Must have been quite a joke. All right, Hunter. That's it for June Wick, but we got an all-star celebration coming up in July.
Last year in July, when it was our first big summer celebration, because the first year of the show, we were just doing, whatever came to mind.
Yeah.
Last year, it was Big Willie style July. We celebrated Will Smith as a huge blockbuster actor for the summertime, especially. And this year, we're going to take it back. We're gonna run it back to a certain degree, not back to Will Smith, but we're going to lay back shit, and we're going to be on cruise control. Tom Cruise films,
the original
all July long
blockbuster actor.
Yeah, he's the guy, right?
He's the guy. Everyone knew Tom Cruise.
We can tell you right now that there are 5 Wednesdays in July. But last year we only got 4. We only got 4 Will Smith movies. We're going to get 5 Tom Cruise movies. So we've made the selection of several of them already. We tried to move around his filmography as best we could. We're starting the month with Legend, a movie that I've never seen. With Tom Cruise, Tim Curry,
It's one of those nights.
Lindsay's going to be there with us for that one, I know, because this is something that she knows. After that, we're moving on to A Few Good Men, which is one of not his star-making turn, because we did watch Top Gun last year during Blockbuster June, which is what we did last summer. So we've already seen Top Gun.
This put him on the map as a real dramatic actor. He'd done dramatic films before.
Dramatic actor.
Yeah, this was the one.
Yeah, Born on the 4th of July and some other things like that. But A Few Good Men is one of those, like, iconic films, especially for a specific scene. So Legend, A Few Good Men. The 3rd week of July, we'll be covering the first Mission Impossible movie, something I've also somehow never seen.
I loved that movie as a kid, but I haven't watched it in 25 years. So
I'll tell you this, when I was doing the notes for it, one of the writers is David Koepp, who wrote, Jurassic Park, Spider-Man, and it was directed by Brian De Palma. So I mean, it's got a hell of a pedigree.
Based on
so I'm very curious about this. Yeah, I've never seen it, so I'm curious to get into that. And then because we covered the first Top Gun last year, the 4th week of July we are going to do Top Gun Maverick.
And we're doing this as a favor to you guys. That way in sequel September, you can pick something else, because we know you're going to pick Maverick.
We know it's coming. This is something that after we watched Top Gun last year, I turned right around and watched Maverick. And not to spoil it in advance, I am going to rewatch it. I really liked it. Really enjoyed it then. So hopefully that still holds true. Shannon, you haven't seen it yet, right?
Well, I don't understand some of the things I read about it. Why are all of the pilots in the movie apparently under something called the high wing? And everyone's scared of the high wing, and
it made $1.5 billion at the box office. You shut up. Just shut up and enjoy it. But you'll notice that's only 4 movies. That's only 4 movies.
But there's 5. But there's 5 episodes in that month.
5 shows.
What's
so
gonna happen?
We're gonna turn it over to the audience for the first time in a little while.
Oh,
Last time we did this was back in video game March of Games back in March. So we have curated a list of 10 other Tom Cruise movies from which you can choose. We're gonna put this list up at facebook.com/Podzilla1985 either tonight or tomorrow. It'll be up there by the time you hear this. Let's put it that way. And between now and the first show of the month, so basically 1 week from now, you'll be able to go and vote for your choice. We're going to have you do just one vote. We tried this last time with a bunch of different ones that got confusing. You pick one. You pick one from the list, and that's the one you're voting for. Whichever one gets the most votes wins. I'll tell you right now that list. So your options will be Risky Business, Days of Thunder, Interview with the Vampire, Jerry Maguire, Minority Report, Collateral, War of the Worlds, Jack Reacher, Oblivion, and Edge of Tomorrow. Okay, so those are your options. You can go vote facebook.com/Podzilla1985, and whichever one of those it is, that will be the one that we review on the 5th episode for the month. Importantly, we are not accepting write-in votes. So if you write in some random bullshit, like, for example, Eyes Wide Shut, which I already vetoed, we're not doing it, and you've wasted your vote, so just don't bother.
Yeah. That'll be next week. Tom Cruise, we're cruising in July.
Cruise control.
That is going to do it for us tonight. Of course, go back and listen to last night's PZ85 Plays, where we did a special edition with my captain, my captain, or as I put it, airship captain, my airship captain. The worst Final Fantasy prequel you've ever heard. We got an all-new After Dark tomorrow. And then Hot Chocobo Nights all summer long until September when we head into the spooky season. That is us live streaming right here on Facebook, which I don't know why I said that because we're not currently on Facebook. Well, anyway, that's going to do it for us. We'll see you tomorrow for an all-new After Dark. Thank you, Steven, for June Wick. I really appreciated watching these films. Had a good time with it. Thank you for Zach for being here. And, of course, Hunter, take us out, and we'll be back tomorrow.
I am the way into the city of woe. I am the way into eternal pain. I am the way to go among the lost. Justice caused my high architect to move. Divine omnipotence created me, the highest wisdom and the primal love. Before me there were no created things but those that last forever, as do I. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here, for you stand in the presence of the motherfucking king.